I am not your savior, but your brother, ready to fight for our land. Together we'll build a Burkina Faso that trusts its people, not foreign promises.
Right now, something amazing is happening in Africa. It's more than protests or speeches. It's a spark, lighting up hearts and transforming nations. In Burkina Faso, a young leader named Ibrahim Traoré is showing the world what real courage and trust look like. And in Kenya, even the police, the ones meant to protect order, are shouting, "Enough is enough." These two countries may be different, but they stand at a crossroads. One is building hope, the other is cracking under pressure. Why? Is it their leaders? Their policies? Or is it something deeper, the trust between people and those who lead them? Let's dive into this story. This isn't just about politics, it's about two kinds of leadership, one that lifts people up and one that drains their hope. In Burkina Faso, a small country in West Africa, something remarkable is happening. Ibrahim Traoré, their young president, leads in a way that feels fresh and real. He's not like the usual politicians who make big speeches and empty promises. Traoré is one of the people. He wasn't born into wealth. He didn't study in fancy schools overseas. He doesn't follow the same old rules. Instead, he walks into villages, sits on the ground, and listens. He listens to mothers who lost their farms, kids who can't go to school, and young people stuck in dead-end dreams. What makes Traoré special? He's not afraid to say no. When the IMF, a big global lender, offered Burkina Faso a loan full of strict rules, he refused. The world called him reckless. Western media said he'd ruin his country, but for his people, it was a moment of pride. For years, their leaders said yes to foreign demands, taking loans that hurt the poor. Traoré's no wasn't just about money, it was about trust. He told his people, "We don't need loan conditions. We need living conditions." And they believed him. Traoré didn't stop at words. He turned to his people instead of foreign aid. He didn't promise easy fixes. He promised land for farmers, hope for the forgotten, and a future built by Burkinabe hands. In a world full of leaders who say one thing and do another, his honesty was a breath of fresh air. People started calling him the son of the mainland, or the second Thomas Sankara, the legendary African hero who also stood up for his people. Have you ever met someone who didn't just talk about change, but made you believe it was possible? That's what Traoré is doing. His courage reminds people they can stand tall. His trust makes them believe they can build a future together. Now, let's go to Kenya, one of East Africa's most developed countries. In July 2024, something shocking happened. Thousands of police officers in Nairobi took to the streets, chanting, "Enough is enough." Some even took off their uniforms on camera. They said they were done serving a government that ignored its people. Imagine that. The very people paid to keep order were protesting against the system they protect. This wasn't just about salaries. Life in Kenya had become unbearable. Inflation had pushed the price of food and fuel sky high. The Kenyan shilling was losing value fast. To make things worse, the government took huge loans from the IMF and other banks, loans with strict rules, cut public spending, reduced salaries, raised taxes. Police, teachers, and healthcare workers felt the pain first. Their pay was delayed for months. Allowances were cut. One police officer removed his badge in a viral video and said, "I didn't betray my country. I just refused to serve a system with no humanity." Those words hit hard. When the very people meant to uphold order lose faith, what happens to a country? Can a nation survive when its protectors feel betrayed? Burkina Faso and Kenya face similar problems: debt, rising costs, and people losing trust. but their responses couldn't be more different. In Burkina Faso, when faced with a budget shortfall, Traoré turned to his people. He called a national forum. Village chiefs, students, women, and traders all came together. He didn't give orders. He asked, "If you were president, what would you cut to protect food and schools?" This wasn't just talk. It made people feel they were part of the solution. The result? People took action themselves. Farmers donated land. Volunteers fixed schools. Communities protected power stations from damage, not for money, but because they believed in the goal. Traoré's honesty inspired hope, and hope turned into action. In Kenya, the government did the opposite. They followed the IMF's rules, cut salaries, raised taxes, reduced spending on health and education. No open forums, no listening, just orders and the police to enforce them. But when even the police felt betrayed, they joined the protests. The people saw this and asked, if they're struggling, who will protect us? That's the difference. One kind of leadership inspires trust. The other drains hope. Traoré's way is about honesty and working together. Kenya's way is about top-down rules, leaving people to suffer in silence. If you were a leader, which path would you choose? Why do people love Traoré? Not because of fancy speeches or expensive suits, but because he feels like one of them. He didn't promise miracles. He promised hard work and trust. He shows up without bodyguards, sits among the people, and talks about real issues, giving land back to farmers, building schools, and creating jobs. In villages across Burkina Faso, young people fix schools. Women teach kids. Farmers grow more food, not because they were paid, but because they believe. Across Africa, from Mali to Nigeria, people are talking about Traoré. They call him the one who speaks for us. Why? Because he listens. Because he says the truth, even when it's hard. Back in Kenya, the protests spread like wildfire. Students, nurses, teachers, everyone joined in, demanding answers. But this wasn't just shouting in the streets. Groups formed to study the country's loans and question the government. They're asking, why so many loans? Where does the money go? Just when Burkina Faso was building hope, foreign powers pushed back. Western media said the country was unstable. Credit ratings were cut. International banks pulled out. Even funding for universities was blocked. But the people didn't give up. Instead of begging for help, they turned education into a weapon. At the University of Ouagadougou, students and teachers started free engineering classes. Farmers taught kids real-life farming skills. They used local knowledge instead of foreign textbooks. They said, "We don't need your money. We have our own wisdom." In Kenya, people saw this and asked, why can't we do the same? Youth forums began questioning the need for foreign scholarships. The idea of education as protest started to spread. People realized that knowledge, not money, might be the real power. So here we are, Burkina Faso and Kenya, two awakenings. In Burkina Faso, people are building schools, growing food, and solving problems together. In Kenya, people are tearing down a broken system, demanding answers, and refusing to be silent. Both are revolutions, but one is about building. The other is about breaking. Anger can start a fire, but without a plan, it can burn everything down. A revolution built on trust and responsibility can last for generations. At the heart of this story is something deeper than money or politics. It's faith. In Burkina Faso, people believe their country belongs to them. They make their own fertilizers, design low-cost houses, plant trees, and fix schools, all without waiting for foreign help. In Kenya, trust is harder to find, but the spark of change is there. By questioning loans and demanding transparency, Kenyans are starting to believe they deserve better. The difference is trust. Traoré built it by listening and acting. Kenya's leaders lost it by obeying orders from afar. And then there's education, the quiet power. In Burkina Faso, when foreign aid was cut, people didn't give up. They taught each other. They turned knowledge into freedom. So what does all this mean for you and me? True change doesn't come from speeches alone. It comes when people trust each other enough to build, to grow, to fight, side by side. In Burkina Faso, they're showing the world what's possible when people believe. In Kenya, they're proving that a spark can grow into a movement. The question is, which path would you choose?